Hey everyone, it's Cynthia. So today we're going to be talking about the second house, the earned income house. Whenever you hear me talk about the second house, you're going to hear me say, this is the house that you build to make money, to earn that income. This is one of the three success houses. The other two is the sixth house, and then you have the 10th house. The second house is your earned income house. The sixth house is the house where you're working to build that income. And then the 10th house is the career, the promotion, the advancement house, the I have made it kind of house, or what I want to become house. So this is actually the house that could make you be successful. But today it's about the second house. The second house is about working towards building that income, building that security and that stability to make that money. Doesn't necessarily indicate that it advances you, but this could bring income or finding ways to make that income. So, one thing to keep an eye out for when it comes to the sign that is in the second house could be an indication of how finances are handled. Take, for instance, Virgo in the second house. It could easily make someone be very tedious with their finances. I think this is great for someone who could get into bookkeeping, accounting, maybe even in banking, because they would be very tedious with the numbers and the facts and the figures regarding their finances. Take, for instance, also Taurus. The Taurus sign I notice would be someone who's always thinking about maybe investing. As a matter of fact, I've noticed when I do some readings, I've seen realtors with a Taurus in their second house and sometimes even in their 10th house. So, for instance, maybe flipping houses, investing in properties would be like a Taurus sign in the second house. Now, like a Gemini, I would say it could be somebody who can manage or adjust to a couple different types of ventures or incomes. This could be somebody who takes on two jobs at the same time, maybe two different sources of income. Maybe they could balance a couple of sources of income. Now, there are certain planets that fall in the second house or transit through or travel through the second house that could be very significant. Take, for instance, a Pluto or Mars could easily give you that ambition and drive to want to pursue new ventures, new opportunities, new ways to make more money. Now, Jupiter in the second house, whether it's in your birth chart or even transiting or traveling through the second house, could easily bring you job opportunities, money opportunities. And I always say it makes it easier for you to get a job. This could also come through connections, opportunities. Maybe you apply for a job and within the week you get the job itself. So you definitely want to keep an eye when Jupiter travels into your second house, either through the horoscopes or if you do an astrology reading for yourself. Check into to see when Jupiter really connects in that second house because it's going to be very beneficial for you. If you were born with Jupiter in your second house, you may kind of be surprised how sometimes a job may come your way very easy, or connections come to you quite easily. Now, having a Saturn in your second house could be a bit restrictive, or you could just know how to find ways to um, stretch out your money. So, this is great when it comes to working towards making that money, but you may also feel that you're not making enough. Having a Uranus in the second house is probably something that is very positive, but could also have its negatives. Take for instance, Uranus in the second house could easily bring a big, sudden boost of income. Take for instance, you were working minimum wage, and then the next year, when Uranus enters your second house, you suddenly get a job promotion that brings about maybe twice the amount of income, or you change jobs and the income is quite significant. Um, the negatives of a Uranus in the second house could bring debts, going into debt, maybe the fear that you may go into debt, so you pay off your debt. So that's maybe something to keep an eye out for. If you are seeing that you're about to go and see Uranus in your second house, either just start planning in advance. But like I said, Uranus in the second house could be very, very positive, very, very beneficial. Now, Uranus in the second house is not Uranus in the eighth house, where you could gain through like maybe a lottery, an inheritance, a settlement. That's Uranus in the eighth house. Uranus in the second house is through earned income, money you have earned to, bring in the income. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. That could be very positive and very beneficial for you. So now I want to talk about some planetary connections, transits to keep an eye out for, especially if they fall in your second house. Keep an eye on a Jupiter or Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, Jupiter and Pluto, a Jupiter and if I say Uranus, all those are great connections. Oh, Jupiter and Mars are great connections when it comes to building that income, making that income, and building towards something great, maybe something that could bring you great success. Now, a Jupiter Saturn can create a little restriction, but it's because you're working towards making something for the long term. So some planetary connections could bring sudden boosts of income, like a Jupiter Uranus, Jupiter Venus, maybe even a Jupiter and Pluto. But Jupiter and Saturn can extend it to where it takes its time before building that success. Now, another connection that I've seen is a Sun and Jupiter that connect very well, especially in progressions. I have seen many times sudden boosts of income, an increase of income when there is a Sun Jupiter positive connection. And a positive connection is a conjunction, a trine. Um, there could be other connections too. If there's an opposition, I don't consider that a positive connection, but sometimes it could be beneficial. So definitely keep an eye on those as positive opportunities that could bring you a boost of income when you have those planetary connections, whether it's coming through houses traveling in through that second house or even through progressions, which I'll discuss more about that in another episode. But if you do study progressions, check out those charts because that could give you much more information that you don't see in a regular astrology chart, but through a progression chart could give you a lot more information on what to expect financially. Now, I did want to discuss about the moon in the second house. So, the moon affects our feelings. And if you are born with moon in the second house, or you're noticing that the moon will be passing through your second house, whether it's just the transits, that can make you feel a little sensitive during that time about finances or about your finances. Whether because it's a day, maybe you're paying the bills, or you're feeling a little bit of, oh, I'm not making enough money. If it is through a transit, it only lasts 2.5 days. If it's through progressions, it lasts 2.5 years. Not saying you're going to feel sensitive and moody about the money during that time, especially through progressions, but it could put you in a situation to feel that you have to find new ways or other ways to bring in more money. Or, like I said, trying to find ways to build that income. It's also going to be about what sign the moon is falling that reflects how your feelings are going to be during that time. So that's also another thing to keep an eye out for when the moon falls in your second house, or maybe through a solar or lunar eclipse. And lunar eclipses last 6 months. So that could be another period of time to keep an eye out for when the earned income house gets affected with the moon in that second house. So I think a big part of it is really going to be about where and what you would like to gain when it comes to building that income, building that financial security. Certain planets are going to give you very positive news. Some other planets are going to kind of restrict things, like a Saturn. But at the same time, I think when it really comes down to the benefits of the second house, could be very beneficial for you. And I think it could really give you a great gift financially. And so it's just really going to be about how you take advantage of that, how you use it to your benefit as a way to really gain more for yourself. Take, for instance, one of the things that I mentioned before about Pluto in the second house. I was born with Pluto in my second house. And one thing I've noticed with people that are born with Pluto in the second house or have Pluto uh, traveling in their second house. So soon, actually, Capricorns are going to see Pluto in their second house. And one thing that I've noticed is I would call it venturing out, building businesses. The entrepreneur is how I noticed the Pluto in the second house. It's always about building that income, being that independent contractor, that sole proprietor, that independent business. All that is Pluto in the second house. That could be very, very positive. Now, if you were to have a Jupiter in the second house and Pluto happens to be in there, that could bring great opportunities for business success. Of course, there's got to be other things going on for you to want to really build on that. But that's why I say that certain planets can really be a big help, a big boost that could really benefit you in the long term. And it's just a matter of taking advantage of those opportunities. And if you feel a little confused, one website that I love going to, majority of their features are free, but one of the things that are free is that you can enter your birth chart and it'll give you so much details of certain things about you as an individual. It would be better if you know your time of birth, but check out astro.com, astro.com. They're so informative, have so many free features that you could learn a lot from that website. There are some features that you would have to pay for if you want to, but you don't have to. And they offer like extended charts so that you can just enter like a certain date. So you can get like a free transit chart. I believe you could get free solar return and progression charts. I'm not too sure about that one. I don't know if they changed those features, but check it out, astro.com. And if you ever have any questions or want to do an astrology reading, you can always reach out to me. But the big one right now is about the second house and checking out the planets and how they interact and connect with you. And then try to see how do they affect you. Now, certain planets are going to be around for longer periods of time than other planets. Pluto alone can easily last a good 14, 15 years in one house. Uranus, 7 years. Jupiter, 12 months or a year. Saturn, 2 years. So every planet can last a long time and can really take a great effect for you for a big amount of time. So it's really going to be about how you utilize it, take advantage of it. And like I said, if you are learning about it, learning about your houses, definitely check out the second house because it's very big when it comes to building income, making money, building income for the long term. All right, thanks for listening and keep an eye on more episodes, more lessons, and other great significant topics that I will be discussing here in the next few weeks and months.